what they learned, and what their plans are for future reporting. Before I introduce them, let's hear from 6 of the judges who reviewed these stories. Jessica, can you share the video?
Yes. Do you guys see the judges? It's a green screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I've noticed over the years that the writing gets stronger and stronger, and the writers get more assertive about their power to talk not simply about their own community, but other communities around them. And that seems to me very encouraging. This year's contestants that I judged were the strongest that I can remember.
This is my evaluation of Philippine News Today's entry on the Bataan Death March. The story informs the community about a timely and relevant breaking news event. It is well researched, it's well written, balanced, and it contains information that is important to the reader understanding the story.
Here's my evaluation of Mireya Olivera's breaking news story for Impulso. This is an original story that followed the reaction of the community to the racist comments of the city council president and other council members, all Latinos. Instead of using random comments from people involved in the march, Olivera talked to key attendants that represented different groups and regions of the Mexican state of Oaxaca. This is not a news you can use story, but it shows members of the community how people get engaged in civic action, a well-organized and attended demonstration.
You know, it's rare to hear these kinds of insider conversations about Africa, or for that matter, any country that isn't the US or part of the Western world. But what's more compelling is that Pamela links issues of gender, tolerance, and national identity in Africa to communities here in the US. And that's the power of ethnic media, really. It's a bridge to the wider world.
My evaluation of Rachel Tan's submission for Skylink TV deserves a special recognition for an outstanding presentation that transcends language, cultural, and racial biases. The story is heartwarming, the most timely antidote in this era of anti-Asian hate, and a positive portrait of what racial harmony can be all about.
This is my evaluation of Radio Balam's social media post. It's a Facebook Live presentation that is so dynamic and accessible that it feels like a feature story. The group has an impressive reach into the community with over 50,000 followers. In this country, Indigenous migrants must often fend for themselves. Here, they showcase their autonomous organizing capabilities.
This is my evaluation of Juan Esparza's breaking news story for Vida Novaya. This piece definitely filled a news hole with its humane coverage of the difficult journey from farm worker to judgeship. He methodically laid out the multiple barriers faced by Judge de Alba and her family and how they overcame them. In addition, he provided valuable insight into the great need for diversity among judges and how we might get there.
Thank you, Jessica. Now, a quick list of our speakers today includes Nate Tinner Williams with Black Catholic Messenger, Mireya Olivera with Impulso News, Rachel Tan, who will join us by video for brief remarks and will be followed by Diana Ding of Ding Ding TV. Rachel is with Skylink TV. Esmeralda Mendoza, co-founder Radio Balam, a Mayan language news platform based in Oakland. John Din Xuan Tai and An Tai, not related, of Little Saigon TV, and Pamela and Chang, the immigrant magazine serving the African diaspora. We ask speakers to speak slowly for our interpreters in Spanish, Mandarin, and Korean. And we ask reporters to enter your questions in the chat. This is a great opportunity to have a kind of editorial brainstorming, learning from our winners about their tips on reporting and their future stories. And we will send a video of today's briefing with bios of each speaker to all participants. So we will begin with John and An Tai, who will share their story of traveling to Ukraine to produce a compelling story on the war and on refugees in Poland. And I should say our colleague Pilar Marrero is joining us from Spain. Pilar, welcome. Thank you for helping me co-moderate today's briefing. It's really such a joy to be able to talk about stories. Welcome, John and An. Tell us about how you came to do a story for Vietnamese viewers of Little Saigon Radio about Ukraine. John, I think you need to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. First thing, I'm very honored to receive this award of EMS and California Flag. We are very honored to receive this one. For the things that for this story we do, like you know, in February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and many immigrants, including the Vietnamese labor in there, tried to escape out of Ukraine, and so they were stuck at the border. So we thought about those people. That's why we come up the story, and we come up the idea to produce this one. But reality, we couldn't make until October 22 for this trip. The reason we do this one, the story of Ukraine is a very similar with Vietnam War before. And my co-partner, An Tai, he was a journalist during in the Vietnam War. So he had a lot of experience about cover the story of Vietnam War. So that's why we come up the story. We come up with priorities, humanity, human. That's the main thing. We see how bad the war make to the people, how bad the communist regime, the communist invade to the freedom country. That's the reason why we come up the story, and we make this story. And this story, after we produce, you know, we have a lot of incidents, like we worry about airstrike, because that day when we came to Crimea, we came to Kyiv, and we have a Crimea issue, right? And airstrike almost full day. So we have worry about the security. We worry about many things, and we worry about we cannot go back to the border of Poland. But we made it after 5 days. But the final of this story, I want to tell to everybody. This story make my heart fell down. I met one small little girl, speak very little English. I met her in the refugee camp in Poland. She came to me. She does not hesitate. I don't know why she chose me. She asked me one thing. Do you believe in God? I was shocked. I was shocked that things she asked me. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I get outside and I go back and tell her, you know what? In America, in freedom country, we always believe in God. Like you see in the dollar sign, in God we trust. We more believe, we more trust. But the next one, I'm sure she think, why God gives Ukraine so many suffer. That's the main thing. The world make suffer to everyone. That is my story today about the Ukraine. So we will continue to cover the people left over in Ukraine. Those people like Vietnamese, they have a son go to fighting for their joy to the military over there. So we continue to follow them, and we continue to follow the people cannot make out of the country because they are so poor. They don't have any place to go, so they have stay in the Ukraine. And so I'm sure, like we said, Slava Ukraine.
Do you think if the Vietnamese who were caught in Ukraine by the invasion, do you think they can go back to Vietnam, or will they be under suspicion?
I can tell you this story we heard. Many Vietnamese get out of Poland and try to go back to Vietnam to living in Vietnam. But some family couldn't live in Vietnam because over there they have dictatorship, bureaucracy. They're asking the kid go to school must have a paper, everything from the Ukraine. They don't have it. So some family escape again, go back to Romania and go to the forest and go back to Ukraine. So
that is a very missing story. The Vietnamese, I don't think many of us knew that there were Vietnamese living in Ukraine. Thank you. And please stay on, John and An. I'm sure there will be questions. Let's move now to our next first place winner for features in English, Nate Tinner Williams from the Black Catholic Messenger. Please tell us how you chose your story and what your thoughts are about future reporting.
Of course. Thank you, Sandy. Good morning to everyone. As Sandy said, I'm Nate Tinner Williams, and I'm editor of Black Catholic Messenger. We were recently founded in 2020 during the pandemic to center African-American Catholics in the daily story of our nation. Part of that mission, though not all of it, involves highlighting the history of Black Catholics, which is often overlooked in the story of our nation. Unfortunately, when most people think of African Americans, they think of Protestants, usually Baptist. They think of gospel choirs, they think of boisterous preachers. And while that is an important part of African American religion, it is not the whole. It's not the only expression, and it's not even the oldest expression. In places like Louisiana and other US regions influenced by colonial powers other than Great Britain, the history of Black religion is intertwined instead with the Catholic Church, the world's largest religious group. So BCM exists to highlight that story. And this is where Father Anthony Amdi Hamilton comes in. He was raised in Louisiana in a family descended from French and African inhabitants of the southern region of that state. He, in a way, embodies a part of the country that's, well known to tourists and to academics as the so-called northernmost Caribbean city, New Orleans, which everyone I'm sure knows about. But it's less known in its history by the average American, I would say. Culturally, it's the birthplace of jazz. It's the cradle of French and Spanish American culture. It's the only place in America ruled by civil law based on the Napoleonic Code. And that's all part of the background of Father Amdi's story. It should be no surprise that people from that part of the country are responsible for some of the most interesting cultural inventions in all of our nation's history. And Father Amdi is no exception. He was a product not only of South Louisiana, but also of the Great Migration. He was actually, his family actually moved out of Louisiana to escape white terrorism in the Deep South during the 20th century, like so many millions of African Americans did. As a result, Father Amdi was raised in California on the cusp of a new cultural revival that was happening there. As he was growing up as a young adult, he became part of a fledgling Black arts movement during the 1960s, and he and his co-workers in that space experimented with poetry and music in a brand new way. And he helped found the Watts Prophets in 1967. And with that group recorded some of the first music that could be categorized as rap or hip hop. Now, I first heard of his story from my friend in Los Angeles, a young deacon in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Now, of course, you might be thinking, well, what does that have to do with Black Catholics? Well, firstly, I'll say the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest Christian groups on the planet. Despite that, I was unfamiliar with Father Amdi, who was also an African American. I was thinking with my friend, like, who is this guy? What are you talking about? But he's telling me, no, I know this old Ethiopian Orthodox priest who's also an African American who also started rap, co-founded the genre of rap music. And I was lost. I thought rap was founded by Caribbean immigrants and their descendants in New York City. I didn't know anything about a Los Angeles connection to the founding of rap, even though it would become popular there down the road. And my friend's telling me this story, and I'm thinking, this sounds like a fairy tale. But it wasn't. This man, Father Amdi, was part of hip hop royalty, almost like the Ethiopian kingdoms of old. And now he was a priest in that church. And at the time, I myself was on a religious journey of my own. I had just become a Catholic in 2019, after 28 years of being a Black Protestant myself. And my friend was eager to inform me that Father Amdi, although he was an Ethiopian priest, Ethiopian Orthodox priest, had been raised a Catholic, like many Black people from Louisiana. Now, I was even more intrigued then, and so I decided to interview this guy after my friend had described him to me.
That's so fascinating. Just in the interest of time, you've certainly whetted our appetites to read your original story, which is on our website and also available through Black Catholic Messenger. Could you tell us briefly what your next story is going to focus on?
Yes. One of my upcoming stories will be about the centennial of St. Augustine Seminary in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, which was the first integrated Catholic seminary in the United States. For most of the country's history, Black people were not allowed to enter American Catholic seminaries. This was the first that was founded to allow Black men to enter and train to become priests. So in October, they will be celebrating 100 years. Alumni and supporters will be coming to visit there, which was not only the first place to educate African American priests, but also produce some of the nation's first African American Catholic bishops.
This is terrific. Yet another, it sounds almost like a cliche to say hole in the news, but as with the Vietnamese perspective on Ukraine. This is such a fascinating window into Black culture and the reality, documenting the intimate lives of African Americans. Thank you, Nate. Please stay on the call. Our next speaker is Myrea Oliveira of Impulso News, and Pilar will help translate Myrea's story about winning a breaking news category in language media, print and online media for the coverage of the LA City Council scandal. Myrea, please tell us about how you approached that story, why you wanted to tell it, and maybe if you have a few minutes, what your next most challenging breaking news or in-depth reporting is going to be.
Mireya, entendiste todo eso bien, ¿verdad?
Primeramente, gracias por la oportunidad de hablar de mi trabajo. Gracias a Amy Media Services, Sandy Clark y California Black Media, que han sido unos grandes aliados y soportes para que sigamos nosotros como medios étnicos trabajando en nuestras historias de color y en especial en las comunidades indígenas oaxaqueñas.
Déjame traducir eso. She's thanking Epic Media Services and California Black Media for all the support and for championing the work that people like her do in journalism, particularly reflecting indigenous communities. Adelante.
El tema de la historia es la marcha del 15 de octubre del 2022, en la que los oaxaqueños de Los Ángeles, Oxnard, Sacramento, San Diego, Santa María, San José y bueno, otros lugares de California vinieron y atravesaron el corazón de Los Ángeles en respuesta a las conversaciones grabadas en el 2021.
The story had to do with a march that occurred in LA on October 15, 2022. There were Oaxacan, actually the story, if you remember, was some recorded conversations by some city council members expressing some racist views, mentioning Oaxacans. So Oaxacans came from all over California to come to the heart of LA to protest. Adelante.
Los comentarios racistas fueron de las concejales Nuri Martínez, Gil Cedillo, Kevin de León y el presidente de la Federación de Trabajadores del Condado de Los Ángeles, Ron Herrera.
The comments, if you remember, were made by former president of the City Council of LA, Nuri Martinez, by former City Council member Gil Cedillo, and still City Council member Kevin de León, and the leader of the AFL-CIO, Ron Herrera.
La marcha fue convocada por una de las organizaciones más antiguas de oaxaqueños en Los Ángeles, que se llama la Organización Regional de Oaxaca.
The march was organized by one of the oldest Oaxacan organizations, and the Regional Organization of Oaxaca.
Y Cielo, que es Comunidades Indígenas en Liderazgo.
And the organization called Cielo, which means Indigenous Communities in Leadership.
En ella participaron diversos líderes de la comunidad que expresaron su sentir en ese momento con los comentarios racistas y de los concejales.
And diverse leaders of the community, of the Oaxacan community, participated and expressed their feelings and their thoughts about these racist comments that were made by these leaders, these LA leaders.
Algunos de ellos, como un reconocido restaurantero oaxaqueño, también participó llevando comida con los organizadores del movimiento Black Lives Matter, que mantenían un plantón fuera de la casa de Kevin de León.
A well-known restaurant owner of the Oaxacan community provided food, and also there were protesters from Black Lives Matter in front of Kevin de Leon's home, asking him to resign, which he hasn't done.
En la historia recabamos testimonios de uno de ellos, de Luis Carmen, que fue fundamental porque él tenía una relación muy cercana con el concejal Gil Cedillo.
Luis Carmen, Mireya?
Yes, Luis Carmen.
Luis Carmen. One of the testimonies was very significant. It was by community leader Luis Carmen, and he condemned the comments, even though he had a very, very close relationship with former council member Gil Cedillo.
Él es un zapoteco y que ha participado con Gil Cedillo, que había participado con Gil Cedillo en diversos actos de la comunidad, como la limpieza de las calles del área de Pico Unio y otros eventos promoviendo campañas para tener una buena relación con la policía de Rampart.
Luis Carmen is a Zapotec leader, and he had participated with the office of Gil Cedillo in many instances, sort of strengthening the relationship between the city council member and the Oaxaca community, and in cleaning the streets in the area of Pico Union, where there's a lot of Oaxacans.
La comunidad académica oaxaqueña reaccionó también a los comentarios racistas y envió una carta al Concilio de Los Ángeles, pidiendo justicia para las comunidades indígenas y no permitir el uso de palabras como oaxaquita e indito.
The academic Oaxacan community also participated, and they had sent a letter to the city council demanding that demeaning words that were used during that conversation, like oaxaquita and others, about Oaxacans, were not allowed in the public realm.
Estos estereotipos que lastiman y reciben y dañan a nuestra comunidad porque describen a nuestros pueblos como racialmente inferiores.
These stereotypes are hurtful because they describe our communities as inferior.
Could I interrupt just because of time, Myrea? Very quickly, what has been the impact of your coverage and of the continuing conversation among Oaxacanos after this scandal broke? Go ahead, Pilar.
Mire, ya te interrumpió Sandy porque quería hacerte una pregunta por cuestión de tiempo. ¿Cuál fue el efecto de tu historia y de la continua conversación entre la comunidad oaxaqueña?
Sí, el efecto es de que ahorita, por ejemplo, senadores de California están visitando el estado de Oaxaca para conocer nuestra cultura.
One of the things that's happening is that California senators are right now visiting Oaxaca to get to know our culture.
Y maestros también de Los Ángeles que están yendo a Oaxaca a visitar comunidades indígenas.
LA teachers right now also are visiting Oaxaca to get to know the indigenous communities.
Wow, that is amazing. Will you be interviewing them on their return about what they learned? Will you be continuing to cover this story?
¿Piensas entrevistarlos cuando regresen de sus viajes? ¿Vas a continuar cubriendo la
claro
historia?
Que sí, estamos siguiendo esta historia.
Yes, of course, we are following this story.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to break it off. We have 3 other winners, and I don't want us to run out of time.
Gracias, Mireya.
Right. But
tenemos poco tiempo y quedan 3 personas todavía para hablar. Gracias.
Thank you. We go next to Esmeralda Mendoza of Radio Balam, which is a Mayan language station based in Oakland. Esmeralda, congratulations and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sandy, and thank you everyone for being here. So Yes, we are the Radio Balam, a Mayan Voices team. We are located here in the Bay Area, mostly in Oakland. We speak an indigenous language called Mayamam from Central America, specifically from Guatemala, part of Huehuetenango. Our team is mostly all Mayamam speakers. Our team is conformed with Crescencio Ramirez, Katy Mendoza, Marta Mendoza, Rosalba Lorenzo, Maya Kendall, and Alondra Torres. That is our team. And we usually do broadcasts on Facebook Live on Radio Balam. You could look up the Facebook page, Radio Balam Mayan Voices Station, where we do lively broadcasts speaking about certain information that we think it's important to our community. Our community is really a community that has been not valued within the years. A lot of people don't know that we are here in the Bay Area, that we have a language informations and resources are out there mostly in Spanish, and it's hard for our community to reach it because some of our community members are illiterate. They don't know how to read or write. They are off from all technology, and having this radio station and having this group is a kind of support that we give our community so they could have access to the services that are out there. And we are the ones that are like the bridge to those resources. We give information, we help them out, or we try to give them the right resources where they could confide in organizations that are willing to help our community. We are really proud of this work because as part of the immigrant community, we have immigrant parents, we're immigrants ourselves. We know the struggles that we have faced because of the language barriers, because of our the barriers with being immigrant and not being legal here and not having the right resources or information in our language, offered in our language. So we created this group in knowledge of supporting and making a leadership within the families, the community, the next generations within our team. So it's really a pleasure for us to be here. We do a lot of things. We do the live broadcasts. We support we have contact with other organizations where we have partnerships, and we do a lot of we give a lot of information. And I have my other coworker here with me, Marta Alicia, where she wants to talk a little bit about a station that we have at the flea market in Oakland, in the Coliseum of Oakland, where we offer our services, where we go out to the community and try to let them know that we have resources for them, and we can let them know in our language. I don't know if Marta could speak up.
Marta,
talk about that.
Please join us, but in the interest of time, could you also both speak about what you think one of the most important stories to make visible and break the silence around of domestic violence? Marta, please add your comments, and then we have only about 3 minutes, but we want to hear your voice.
Okay, she'll be doing it in Spanish, so if there could be interpreting with that. Marta?
Can you?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay.
Hola, muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Marta Mendoza. Soy una trabajadora de alcance MAM en la comunidad de Oakland.
Please go on.
Okay. Sí, les voy a hablar un poco de lo que hacemos en la estación de La Pulga de Coliseo de Oakland. Nos reunimos para ofrecer a nuestra comunidad los servicios de lo que damos. Damos información de abogados de inmigración, conozca sus derechos, compensación al trabajador y también conozca sus derechos, ya sea si ICE lo detiene, y conozca sus derechos en el trabajo. Y también como crimen de odio, información de COVID-19 y muchos servicios más. También le ayudamos a las personas a llenar su aplicación de estampilla de comida o medical, renovación de medical, ya sea llenamos por primera vez o nomás de renovación, ¿verdad? Entonces, y también hacemos citas de consulado de Guatemala para que ellos hagan la cita de pasaporte y porque la comunidad tiene mucha dificultad para hacerlo y ayudamos a traducir unas cartas también. Y también vamos 3 veces en la pulga de Oakland. Y también si nos desean contactar, nos pueden llamar al 510-485-9609. Ese es nuestro número de teléfono y estamos tenemos una página de Voces Mayas. Estamos como Voces Mayas en Facebook.
Thank you, Pilar. Can you summarize?
I wasn't aware that I had to translate that. So I didn't.
I could do it. So
Yes.
well, my coworker Martha was saying that we have a station in the flea market in Oakland where we offer our services to people who want to renew Medi-Cal. We give them information about know your rights when ICE detains you or about hate a crime. We give them all these types of resources to the community. And I think it's so important to the community to know this because a lot of the information there is all in Spanish or English, and it's not in our Mayan mom language. And this
Right.
has impacted our community to speak up, to go and get help with workers' compensation because some are hurt. We've gotten people that have gone and reported hate crimes because now they know they have a right to speak up and not go under that pressure. We also have a lot of our community that have thanked us, and we've made an impact because now they're speaking up, they're coming out of the shell, and they're going out and saying we have a right, even though we don't speak the language, we're not from here, or this place is new. So our community is building up a leadership within themselves because of the information we are motivating them and the support that Radio Balam and Mayan Voices is giving them. And like Martha said, we have our own Facebook page, Radio Balam and Voices Mayas also has one, and we have our direct line where the community could reach us, call us if they need any certain information or if they just need to talk to us about a certain thing that's going on with them. So our direct line is 510-485-9609.
Thank you. It's a remarkable window into an invisible culture. Thank you so much. We'll go now to Pamela Anchang, who won first place for English language broadcast in the international category. Pamela, Immigrant Magazine, please tell us about your story and the future focus you hope to bring.
Well, it's a pleasure. I don't know. When I looked at my submissions, I realized I had submitted 3 international stories. So I'll just briefly, talk about why I chose those stories. First of all, the Immigrant Magazine actually focuses on all immigrants. So we're a voice of immigrants. But as an African, I noticed the gap in the diaspora approach to telling stories. And so I decided to talk about the relationship between the various diaspora and the homelands. So the goal is to we started with Africa and then to continue on to other diaspora communities, including Asia, Latin America, Caribbean, Europe, Middle East, etc. So I'm actually actively working on other projects. But the stories that I chose that won the category first was about a Romanian, Dr. Nina Smart, who I thought we should highlight her. I should highlight her story because she's been working hard and having been a victim almost, because it actually didn't happen, but she escaped FGM, which is known as female genital mutilation, a practice that happens and affects over 200 million women in Africa and around the world. So I thought it was important to tell her story because she's working on this. And even right here in the United States, there are communities, immigrant communities, not just African, that quietly practiced this and needed to bring this to the forefront. I also told a story about a legendary artist from Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the biggest sub-Saharan countries on the continent, and they have emerged this beat called Afro-pop, Afrobeat, but they've had a hard time breaking through mainstream, which is typical of what most diaspora communities experience. So I wanted to highlight the challenges faced by diaspora communities, African communities, who generally have been at the forefront of most of civilization, and yet have a hard time breaking through in the mainstream and being given credit for what they do. And then finally, I had the story of an award-winning filmmaker, director, Nika Nigest, who born to an African-American parent and an Ethiopian mother. You know, she said she grew up never seeing positive stories about Africa, and that shaped her ideas of what Africa is, and that is typical. Even my own children, sometimes I have to remind them not to focus too much on what mainstream media portrays. So I wanted to share those stories. And the reason I wanted to tell these stories is because oftentimes the people in the diaspora are better ambassadors to their homeland communities. So I really feel that it's important to share the stories. I know that we're pressed for time, so I don't want to delve too much, but you asked about what I'm working next on. What I'm working next on is along the same lines. I'm trying to finish up Africa, the diaspora, and I'm working on the brain drain, which is being an issue. If you look at the statistics, it shows that the African diaspora population is right now to the tune of 350 million people living out of the continent. How can we leverage, like I spoke about earlier, Sandy, how do we leverage these resources and talents for the benefit of the people and for their contributions to be acknowledged? So I just did 2 powerful interviews with the founder of an organization called Africa's Brain Bank, which is a repository of the talents and resources of people of African descent, whether it's African American, whether it's Afro-Latinos, whatever, anybody of African descent. We're trying to create a bank where we will know each other, because not knowing each other is the brain drain, because we are not leveraging each other's resources. And so I did that interview with her, and I also did an interview with one of the ambassadors to this effort, who's a legendary Nigerian actor who happened to be here, and they had this event, and we have been working with them. I'm just trying to figure out how they are going to use their platform to leverage the resources of the African brain, in a nutshell.
Oh, you know, people ask me, how is it that you work with ethnic media? And I have to say, because their stories are so inspiring. You really, all of you have contributed so much insight into what it means to be a diverse America. So our final speaker will be Rachel Tan, whom we'll hear from briefly over video. But what Richard Rodriguez said about being impressed by the growing extent to which ethnic media cover each other's communities, not only their own, is very much part of this story. Jessica, can you play the quick video? Rachel was unable to join us, but gave us this video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel from Skyline TV San Francisco. I'm deeply honored to be here today to share our story with all of you. First and foremost, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to EMS for this incredible opportunity and to the esteemed panel of judges for their recognition. The award that I received falls under the feature writing category, and it highlights the inspiring tale of the Oakland Chinatown Black hero, Willie Davis. In June of 2012, the Chicago-based nonprofit organization, People Matter, held its 3rd annual Black Heroes of Chinatown Award ceremony. Willie Davis, a cherished figure who has devoted 2 decades of his life to Oakland's Chinatown, was one of the 6 distinguished recipients from across the United States. Despite language barriers and cultural differences, Willie's unwavering service to Chinatown, his staunch stand against racism, and his profound compassion for his community mark him as a true hero. Even in retirement, he continued to upkeep the Lincoln Center facilities, confronting community challenges like graffiti cleanups. His boundless passion and dedication, undiminished by age and linguistic differences, rightfully earned him his title as a Black hero of Chinatown. His story is more than a tale of service. It amplifies cross-cultural understanding and unity. I'm immensely proud that we could spotlight this narrative and share it to the Chinese community. In a time where Stop the Hate resonated as a rallying cry across various ethnic groups. We genuinely believe that stories like this promote positivity and solidarity. As Skyline TV, we remain dedicated to chronicling and sharing more impactful stories like this in the future. Thank you once again for this honor.
Thank you. And joining us is Ding Ding TV founder and former host of Chinese language broadcast television, Diana Ding. Diana, could I ask you quickly, how important are stories like this for Chinese-speaking audiences to cover more than the mainstream news coverage of the rising number of Asian hate crimes? How important do you see this kind of story of a Black hero in Oakland, Chinatown?
Thank you, Sandy. Yeah, thanks the Ethnic Media and the California Black Media. That was a very meaningful event last weekend. And we had interviewed 12 people and live streamed the opening and the award ceremony. Talking about the importance, this story really touched me, it inspired me, because in the Chinese community, many seniors will think that African Americans are the one who hate Asians, who attacked Asians, which is totally not true. And this story is very important. We heard the story Rachel just mentioned, and we also heard Judge Koo talked about how good Rachel put them together. But I would want to see that it's critically important for us because we're all living in the same community, but we don't know each other. We don't know each other's story. We don't know each other's culture and background. So it's, we're talking about Stop Hate. Besides reporting crimes, providing service for people in need, it's also very important to tell each other's stories and uplifting our community, building up the trust and friendship. I think this, if it's not Rachel, this story could never be heard by large Chinese community. So I think it's really important. I also set a very good example for us to tell each other stories. Yeah, thank you.
Tell us what you think the most important coverage Skylink and Ding Ding TV can do for Chinese-speaking audiences, which often do become very isolated by language, as do Korean American, as do Vietnamese American. How do you bridge the language barriers and bring greater coverage of other ethnic groups to your audiences?
Thank you for asking. I think for us, we started this Asian American Stories video contest. And thanks to Indian Currents, Filipino News, and many other ethnic medias already coming and join us together. I think it's really important for us to work together on one project because we are so busy, but we seldom work together. By working together, itself is a story, the story behind the scenes. We communicate how we communicate and how we, build up this team together. This is a great story. And also I think it's very meaningful for the events we organize, because when you interview people, you tell the story, it's maybe you meet this person for one time and it's hardly for you to follow up. But when you organize events together, you work together constantly. It's not only one-time thing. It's building up the forever friendship, a long-time partnership. So I really enjoy organizing event, really meet people face to face, and also attending the diverse cultural events and other ethnic groups events. That's why I'm so busy, always outside, because this really inspired me with so many great things. And we come into this country and become a part of the fabric and contribute to this country. And we belong to this place and we belong to each other.
Thank you. I want to ask each of our speakers now for a final comment on how important it is to recognize the quality and content of reporting in the ethnic media. Too often, these stories are really invisible to the wider public, but can we make them visible to each other's audiences? I think this was the dream that inspired New American Media and now Ethnic Media Services in partnership with California Black Media. And all of us, can we create a opportunity to share the stories that document our own communities with each other so that there is more multiracial, multi-ethnic communication? What is your sense of the importance of that? And do you see yourself inspired to, in a way, create almost a news exchange in multiple languages that will help communities that are isolated know more about each other? John and An, do you want to share very limited, brief comments on that? The importance of cross-ethnic, cross-racial communications.
I think it's very crucial for the ethnic media to bring news, originally news to their audience and listener. For example, in Vietnam, in the Vietnamese community, we always rely on the communication and media the streamline. We rarely have sent a reporter directly to the event to cover the news. That's why I think that's very important for the ethnic media to continue and improve the talents to cover the news for their community.
Thank you. John, do you want to add anything to that?
I think ethnic media help us a lot to contribute to send our message to other communities. Like a Din said, we came to this country as an immigrant, so we are fabric together to make these countries better, and for the people we here understand our ethnic, our immigrant. That's the main things for this country. This country, devote for democracy, freedom. So we need to support this country and build these countries better. Thank you.
Thank you. Nate, any thoughts about the importance of pan-ethnic communication? You represent Catholicism, which is universal. You also have this remarkable opportunity maybe to comment on what Native American experiences have been with the Catholic Church, which are now getting a lot of coverage. We have Native Media FNX, Frank Blanquet on this call, and I'm just thinking of the importance of a connection between your work on the history of the Catholic Church and the Native American interest now in retracing their experiences in Catholic schools?
Yeah, I think there's always a similarity to be considered between different ethnic groups and their experiences with the Catholic Church. Usually that experience has a lot to do with colonialism, and the expression today being that of post-colonialism and, you know, healing the wounds and making the world aware of wounds that they may not have previously been aware of. And I know you made reference there to Native Americans who are obviously currently going through that process with making the world know, helping the world know more about the residential schools. And, you know, that's, of course, it's not restricted to one ethnic group. And unfortunately, the universal experience of minorities with the Catholic Church is often negative, or at the very least a negative history, even if it's being healed now. So yeah, I would say it's important for there to be dialogue across cultures, in large part so that people don't think that it was like a one-off event, that because Native Americans suffered in residential schools, that, you know, they were the only ones who suffered in those kinds of environments. So that we won't be rehashing a story over and over again and not learning from our mistakes. It's that, I would say, that's the most important reason for dialogue.
That's inspiring. And Myrea Oliveira, very quickly, the importance of this being multi-ethnic, multiracial news exchange.
I asked Mireya on the chat, and she responded to me so I could tell it to you in English. She said that it is a very important thing that we should do if we want to move forward towards issues to eliminate the stereotypes and towards equality, so we can get to know each other better. She also wanted me to mention that something that she couldn't mention before, that it's going to be a year since those racist comments from the city council members in LA, and the city council is preparing a motion to apologize to the Oaxaca community.
Thank you. That's really important for all of us to know. Esmeralda Mendoza and Marta, we only have time for one because we're after the hour, it's 12:02, but could you share what you see, Esmeralda, as the importance of Mayan Mon communication across multiple languages?
Yes, thank you. I think it's important because as Maya mom language, there are a lot of other languages, a lot of other cultures out there that don't have the opportunity to speak upon themselves because we are in a place, or we are considered to speak one language. Well, there's more behind that. So I think it is important that we show ethnic media, or there be different types of medias in languages or in cultures, because we're not just one, we are many. And as a Maya mom community, I think it's important to let the world know that it's not only one person or one community, that there's a lot more to that. And that being able to reach all around the world, I think motivates others in having a voice or standing up for themselves.
I very well put. Pamela Anchang, your perspective on the importance of multi-ethnic, cross-racial communications.
Well, in a nutshell, it's the powerful tool for combating hate, because ignorance and fear are what often lead to the hate and the prejudice and stereotypes that we experience. So I think it's really important because it humanizes individuals from different backgrounds. And so it's kind of difficult to hate someone if you know them and understand them, in a nutshell.
Thank you. And last word, Diana, we're heading it feels like this constant reminder that China could become our public enemy number one, which of course always results in backlash against Chinese and people who look Chinese, East Asians. How important is the collaboration with other ethnic language, immigrant language, and ethnic racial media in your view?
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you all. And I feel like, it become a politically correct in targeting China, in our media, in our government. Actually, the people, really, many of the people don't think that way. So I feel that's really important for us really to know the truth, know the real story, and to really come up, stand up and support each other. Because with ethnic media service, we're building up an allyship. We know who you are, and we know we are all Americans. So this is critically important for us to telling each other's stories and understand each other's culture, and also building up the trust. Last year we produced the music video, All of Us Belong Right Here. Gia from the Vietnamese media, she translated that into Vietnamese, and Vandana translate that into Indian language. So I think that's really the great collaboration. I'm very thankful and so touched by all of you. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thanks to our colleagues who listened to California experiences which you so profoundly share. Maybe in the future, we can think of doing an awards program, which is National Ethnic Media Awards. And if so, you have all been inspiring examples. Thank you so much for joining us. And I so enjoyed hearing you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you for having us.